In the previous video, we have implemented the save and load buttons, and they work by reading and writing the data from a file and to a file, but currently we cannot really reload the layout of buildings on our map. So we are going to go back to our game manager. I'm going to reopen this script by clicking those three dots and edit. Now let's slide it down to find our load method, and we have our for each loop that loops through each saved structure data. And right now we are debug.logging the data. Let's delete this debug.log statement, and instead we are going to call if our structure data dot building type, and if this is equal to cell dot road, the matter will be easy because we can simply call our road manager dot place road. We can pass our structure data dot position dot get value, which will return us the vector 3, and we have a bit of an issue because we have saved the vector 3 but we wanted a vector 3 int. So what we can do is we can simply call here a vector 3 int dot round to int, and we can pass our vector 3, and in this way we can pass the vector 3 into our place road, and all we need to do is call road manager dot finish placement, since the road manager uses a star algorithm to place road between 2 points, and it only finishes the road placement when we lift our finger from our mouse button. So that's why we need to have 2 calls, and that would be it. Now else, if any other structure is being placed, I would like to call our structure manager to do it. But as you can see, if we say the process input from the calls when we are placing a, for example, house, it calls our structure manager dot place house. Let's right click and go to the definition, and the problem is that it doesn't take the index of a prefab. It only randomly selects it. So we would need to add or refactor this code or add a separate method that will deal with the data that we have loaded from a file. And that's what we are going to implement. So let's go back to our game manager. And when we are in the else statement here, I'm going to call our structure manager, and I'm going to create a method called placed loaded structure. We do not have this method yet. So basically we need to pass here the same as we have passed to the place road. So let's cut this out and let's create outside this if statement vector 3 int position equals, and we can paste what we have cut out from the place road, and we can paste the position to give the position to the place road, and we can give the position to the place road loaded structure. Okay, next we are going to give it a structure data dot building index, building prefab index, and structure data dot building type. Okay, and this should be it. So now what we can do is simply select the method that we do not have, alt enter, and we can see that we have in the quick help menu generate method inside our structure manager. So let's click that. Let's right click on this newly generated method, and let's go to the definition. Now again, if you are not using Visual Studio, you might have to manually create it, but if you have it already, now we can create our structures. What we are going to do is we are going to type switch statement tab, and we can now pass here our building type, which is the enum. If we now click the arrow downwards, it will automatically create for us different cell types. We are not interested in the road or empty, so let's delete those. We are interested in the structure, big structure, and special structure. And what we are going to do is we are going to reuse the same code that we have when we are calling the method called place house for our default structure. Now, since we are duplicating the code, this indicates that we should probably refactor this code to remove this duplication, but for now just find the place house method, and we are going to copy the placement manager.place object on the map that we are calling here. We are going to slide it down to our switch statement, and we are going to paste it for our cell type.structure. But instead of random index, we are going to pass here our building prefab index, and this will deal with selecting the correct house prefab. Now, for the big structure, again, we are going to slide up to find our place big structure, and the difference here is that we have int width and int height set to be 2, and we are passing it inside our place object on the map. So we're going to copy this place object on the map call, we're going to slide it down, and we are going to paste it for our building cell type big structure. And since we do not have width and height, we can pass simply 2 and 2. And again, as I have said previously, we can refactor this code when we know that it is working. Now for the index, we are going to pass the building prefab index instead of the random index. Okay. And basically for the special structure, we can copy the same what we had for the cell type.structure. Let's paste it here. And instead of the cell type.structure, we are going to pass here cell type.special structure. And instead of the house prefabs, we are going to call special prefabs instead. And now we should get the correct prefab for the special structure. Now, of course, there will be an issue of what happens when we already have placed some buildings on our map and then we load the structures. So that's why we have clear map in our structure manager, and we are going to use it to first clear our grid, because if we go to our clear grid, go to the definition, it simply destroys all the structures and clear the grid that stores the data about our map. Okay, let's go back to our structure manager, let's Ctrl S to save it, let's go back to our game manager and let's save it. But now, again, as I have previously mentioned, we are going to have to call our clear map method. So just before we loop for each, we are going to call our structure manager dot clear map, and this should deal with the structures that we have already placed. So this would be something like reloading the map before you load the data. So with that done, let's go back to Unity. Great. Now, because we have the buttons connected already to the game manager, all we need to do is press play. And now, when we press the load button, the structures should be placed. Now what we can do is, of course, add to this by creating another road, placing some houses, even place a big house. Now let's press save. Let's clear the console just to see it more clearly. Let's maybe add something more here. Now let's load. And you can see that everything was replaced. Now, of course, we can stop the game, restart it, and if we press the load button, the structures will be correctly placed and they should have the same prefab models that we have selected when we were creating them. And this concludes our tutorial for implementing a simple save system on an example. I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial. If you do, please leave a like, and if you want to support me, you can visit my Patreon website, and you can check out my Udemy courses, the link will be in the description, and maybe you can support me in this way. Thank you very much for watching this tutorial, take care!